Congratulations with picking up the PRINCE2 Agile Practitioner Training course from Métier. Now, in order for you to get off to a good start and to get the maximum out of the training course, pass the exam, be ready to use Agile on all your projects, all of that, in order to do that, we want to show you how to make your study plan. And of course, we're going to make the study plan like an Agile project plan. So the project is going to be your PRINCE2 Agile Practitioner training. We're going to make an Agile plan. In order for us to get started, we need a blank piece of paper, some markers in different colors, and we're ready to make the plan.
So the first thing we need to do in order to make an Agile plan for your PRINCE2 Practitioner online training, including the exam, is to get an overview over the work that we need to do. And this is what you in Agile terminology call the backlog. So this would be the project backlog. And the backlog is just a lot of work that we think we need to do in order to finish the project and get the value. So we're going to call the things in our backlog work items, and we're going to have work items like the 28 e-learning lessons that you have as part of your online training. Then we want to do some repetition, where we use the manual, the paper manual, go through that. There's a test exam, we want to take that, and we want to do some fine repetition. And at the end of the project, there's also the real exam. So those are the work items right there. Excellent. Now, what we also want to do when we're looking at the backlog, we want it to be estimated. And we're going to estimate this one in hours. Now, we don't have to worry too much about estimates, since we are going to be working in short iterations. We're going to have plenty of opportunity to update the estimates once we have some empirical data. But we say that one e-learning lesson probably is going to take you an hour. So 28 hours for the e-learning lessons. Then we have the repetition 4 hours, test exam 4 hours, final repetition 5 hours, and the exam is going to take you about 4 hours all in all. Even if the exam time is 2.5 hours, you know, there's some time before and after. So that all comes out at 45 hours. Excellent, that's the backlog. Next thing, we're going to have to look at the time and cost of the project. And that's because in a PRINCE2 Agile project, time and costs are the fixed variables. So we're going to have to figure out how long this is going to take, when's the deadline, and the cost or the effort. And the effort is going to be in hours. If we're taking this course, we're going to spend some hours, and that's the cost, or if you like, the effort. Now, looking at the estimates, 45 hours, I'm going to say 50 hours. That's my cost, and I'm going to be basing that on. I'm going to be able to use 2 hours every working day. So that's 10 hours a week. So 50 hours, going to the time variable, 50 hours with 10 hours a week, that's 5 weeks. So now we have our project time box. We have a start date and an end date. And we know, because this is an Agile project, we know we're going to be finishing at the latest by the end date. We're just going to have to figure out a way to prioritize our way there, in case the estimates are too optimistic. So start date and end date, and here you can insert your own dates. You know, I start on the 1st of January and I finish on whatever of February or whatever. This is, as I said, the project time box, and it stands at 5 weeks. You know, from the day we begin, we're going to be done in 5 weeks, and we're going to spend 50 hours. Now, this is a pretty good recommendation. You can use this for your own project, 5 weeks and 50 hours. But, you know, it all comes down to how many hours are you willing to spend every day. Also, it comes down to when do you need to have passed the exam? When do you want to be through all this, right? That was the 2 first steps. Number 3, we want to look at iterations, because now we have the project time box. That's one big time box. We need to work with much shorter time boxes in order to have an iterative approach to this project. And since it's really handy, we're going to work with weekly time boxes. So 1 week is going to be a time box, and a time box is the same as an iteration. So we're going to work through and try to finish some things, and then at the end of the iteration, we're going to look at how we did and plan the next one in detail. So week 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, Those are iterations. And I'm going to put in here as well, just so we are clear on that, that the effort, the cost for each week is going to be 10 hours. When you're thinking about planning an agile project, you're going to have to think about what's the cost going to be, what number of hours we're going to spend on this, and then it's really wise to keep a steady pace that you can maintain indefinitely. So you don't want a roller coaster ride where you spend 30 hours the first week and 0 hours week 2. You want a steady pace. Okay, just to go back and look at our two time and cost variables, the cost, it all equals out at 50 hours and the time is 5 weeks. And that is fixed. So we're going to fix that. So far so good. Now step number 4 would be to plan the work. Okay, we're going to plan the work. So basically we want to take whatever's in the backlog and sort of divide it up into the iterations, make a high level plan for the project. That would be our project plan. Now before we start planning the work, we need to put something really important in there. We need to put project management in quotation mark work in there. So these are iterations. These are our low level time boxes. You can think of them as PRINCE2 stages if you want to. We need to, when we finish an iteration, we need to do 3 things. We need to review what we did according to the plan we had. Did we finish everything? We also need to do a retro and find out, can we work smarter in the next iteration? And the third thing we want to do is, of course, to plan the next iteration in detail. Now, how long is that all going to take, you may ask yourself? Well, it could take whatever time you wanted it to. So we're simply going to give it a time box of 1 hour. So we know that at the end of each iteration, we're going to spend 1 hour for what we call iteration completion. And that's going to be review, retro, and planning. So we have 1 hour. We have 9 hours left capacity for each iteration. I'm just going to fill up with the work here from the product backlog. So we do lesson 1 to 9 in iteration 1, lesson 10 to 18, and so on. And it all equals out to 10 hours. That means we're 100% loaded for each iteration. I wouldn't worry too much about that, because after the first iteration, we're going to know how long we take to finish one e-learning lesson. And even though 1 hour is sort of our rule of thumb for how long an e-learning lesson takes, I can almost guarantee you that for you it will not take 1 hour. It may take 45 minutes, it may take 1 hour and 10. For some people it takes half an hour. It's not very likely you're gonna hit the exact estimate here. So what you do is you get some empirical data, like how long do I actually take to do this, and then you adjust the estimates going forward. And then you will know if you have place to do, for instance, more repetition or more runs with test exam, or if you're gonna have to prioritize. Okay, so step 5, that's the iteration plan. Now we want to look at the first iteration and plan that one in detail. And by detail I mean, yes, in detail. So you're going to look at, what am I going to do Monday, what am I going to do Tuesday, when am I going to do it. So that's the detailed kind of planning that we want here for the next week. So we do 1 week iterations and we want detailed planning for the next week. So you do that Monday through to Friday, and once you've done that, you execute, and at the end, it's probably going to be Friday at some point, you have done all the work you have time for. Maybe you finished 9 lessons, maybe you did 5, maybe you did 15 lessons, who knows. You're going to take that into account when you review the iteration. You are going to do a retro, you're going to look at planning the next iteration, adjust your estimates, and then you're going to go on. So there you have it. That's how you plan an agile project. That's how you make your study plan for the PRINCE2 Agile Practitioner online course. I wish you the best of luck with the course. I hope you make this plan. I hope you follow up on it. And remember, the Agile project plan, it gets better as you actually use it. And that's one of the beautiful things about running an Agile project.